You're coming to Nova Scotia, Canada pretty soon, November 13th, at the Marquee Ballroom in Halifax. This is probably your first time ever in Nova Scotia. How's the feeling?
Yeah, it is our first time in Halifax, certainly. Yeah, we did, like a lot of bands, for the longest time. Anytime we were coming to Canada, we'd only play Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver. And actually, one of our managers is Canadian. So a couple of years ago, I said to him, "There's got to be somewhere else to play up there. I mean, you're from there." And he went, "Of course there is. There's loads of places." So, like 2 years ago, we kind of put our toe in the water for the first time. I moved outside of just those three cities, and I think we did about 7 or 8 shows, and it was fantastic. We had a great time. So much so that a couple of years later, here we are. Got in touch with the promoters again, said we were thinking of coming back, and they were actually very keen. And as a consequence of which, we're doing quite a few more shows this time. And I think we're up there with you for pretty much all of November, really. So we're looking forward to it. Should be fun.
It's like that first wave punk bands are pretty rare nowadays, and I'm certain that Canadians don't get to see this, type of music or style anymore. Is that true?
Well, I mean, certainly, if you're talking about sort of the initial wave of bands, I mean, we were kind of about 6 months behind the real trailblazers, but there's still people like the Damned, the Buzzcocks, the Stranglers, and we kind of get lumped in with all of those bands because we are pretty much of a vintage. So yeah, I mean, while there aren't a huge number of us about, we're all still pretty active, and that's. I think that's testimony to not just the songs that all the bands wrote, but also the fact that everybody learned how to play and learned the stagecraft and stuff. And so without sort of wanting to sound in any way big-headed or whatever, we usually I'm talking about all the bands here. We usually all pretty much deliver whenever we play, and I think that's important to an audience,
And let's say with the punk scene compared to the 70s and today, has it changed a lot, with the online experience that the people can go and kind of research more about what the bands are like?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I can only talk, like I said, in terms of our audience, but it certainly has been a resurgence in interest. With regards to, the differences between how it is today and what it was like when we started, again, even though, like I said, we were kind of 6 months behind the original bands, we were still treated as a bit of an oddity in a lot of places. It's like we'd turn up and people would be some people would actually come out just as almost like you were sort of a freak show in town, because they didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, over the years, the music itself has become sort of completely subsumed by the mainstream music business, and a lot of bands that call themselves punk bands now, we would have just considered sort of either pop bands or rock bands back in the day. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of a consequence of the fact that the actual music itself became so popular, and I don't want to sort of badmouth any of the younger bands because basically they're still out there doing it's still just as hard for them as it was for us they've still got to play, they've got to learn, and lots and lots of people like them. Just unfortunately, like I said, from my point of view, because I was kind of there back in the day, it was like I can see a lot of young bands today and think, yeah, they're really good, but like I said, the Damned did it better like 30 years ago. So I think back that the industry has kind of swallowed up the scene. It's not as independent as it was back, when we started out.
Mm-hmm. And how's life as a touring musician these days?
If you're talking about what's it like for me to tour these days,
yeah,
it's pretty much the same as it always has been. It's just now that the distances involved are much greater because obviously back when we started out, you're only playing in a pretty small area. People didn't know who we were outside of Ireland. So our touring world was basically Ireland. Now, of course, after 40 odd years, our touring world is pretty much the world. I mean, we started this year by going to Australia and New Zealand, and then during the summer in the early spring a UK tour. In the summer we did festivals in Europe, and some shows in Germany, and finished up by playing sort of a major homecoming show in Ireland. And like I said, now we're coming up to see you. So, I mean, basically, there's a lot more travelling involved than there was back in the day. And obviously, you know, we're all that little bit older, so it's not quite as much fun as it was, because just basically it's harder to get up in the morning, you know.
Right. So Jake, also you guys are, you know, basically Atlantic Canada, because Moncton also has a concert coming up the next day after Halifax. Moncton, New Brunswick, is it the first time you guys play there as well?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, you know, there are a number of places. This is the first time we played them. You know, Halifax is a first for us. Moncton's a first. I think Quebec City's a first as well. I mean, London is a first. Obviously not the one in England, the one outside of Toronto. So yeah, I mean, there are quite a few places. But like I said, that's kind of what we wanted to do. You know, we deliberately asked our management to put us into places that we hadn't been before. You know, I mean, it may turn out that some of these shows are probably going to be great. Some might be you know, sort of very sparsely attended. We could be playing to the bar staff and their dogs, you know. But we'll wait and see when we get there. We hope that there are going to be more people there than that. But you know, the whole idea, like I said, was to kind of go outside our own comfort zone a bit, and you know, kind of go out and play for the people. If any people want to come see us, you know.
Yeah, stiff little fingers in Halifax and basically New Brunswick. That's awesome.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it, yeah.
Well, Jake, been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope everything goes well in the tour.
Well, thank you. I'm so sorry about the connection, Jason. It was just, I mean, I really couldn't understand half of what you were asking me. So I hope I didn't wander on and waffle on about things you weren't even the slight bit interested in. So
no,
thanks for your time, man. I apologize again. I'm sorry.
You're very welcome, and someday you'll hear that the interview went very well.
Okay, well, like I said, I hope I don't make a fool of myself, because I wasn't really sure what you were asking. All right, man. Take care. All the best.
Bye-bye.